The average American spends about 90% of their time indoors, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And according to the same agency, the air inside that home is typically 2 to 5 times more polluted than the air outside, sometimes far worse. Most modern homes solve this with a mechanical ventilation system, a fan, a motor, a filter, a duct network, and a monthly maintenance schedule. But there is a structure that has been quietly ventilating buildings for thousands of years, using nothing but a vertical shaft, the shape of a roofline, and the heat of the sun. No fan, no motor, no electricity, no filter to replace. It's called a wind tower, or in its most famous form, the Persian badgir. And if you've never heard of it, that's not because it doesn't work. It's because the way we build and regulate homes in America was never designed around it. So what is it? How? Does it actually work? And is there a version of it that belongs on an American roof today? Let's find out. A 2,500-year-old answer to a modern problem, the wind tower's story, begins in the desert cities of central Iran, places like Yazd, where summer temperatures regularly exceed 104 F. According to the Encyclopedia Iranica's entry on the badgir, wind catchers in Yazd are typically brick towers, rising between 30 centimeters and 5 meters above the roofline. With the tallest known example at the Be-Daulat BD Garden, rising 33.8 meters above the roof of the garden pavilion it serves, making it the tallest wind catcher in the world. The basic principle, documented in the Encyclopedia Iranica and corroborated across architectural literature on Persian desert cities, is elegantly simple. A tall shaft rises above the building with openings at the top. During the day, wind entering the tower's openings is funneled down into the living space below, cooling the occupants of the rooms below by convection and evaporation as it descends. The Encyclopedia Iranica also documents a specific refinement. Light bamboo screens were often placed across the vents, and water was thrown over them on summer afternoons so that incoming air was cooled further by evaporation before reaching the rooms below. In some houses, this same airflow was routed to an underground water reservoir, where it cooled the stored water while preventing it from stagnating, according to architectural surveys of Persian desert houses. This is not a niche curiosity. According to UNESCO, which listed Yazd as a World Heritage Site in 2017, the city is described as a living testimony to the intelligent use of limited resources in the desert for survival. The oldest surviving wind catchers in Yazd date to the 14th century, though the broader concept is believed to date back roughly 2,500 years, with some of the earliest documented references appearing as far back as the 5th century. The wind tower spread along trade routes into Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the Arab states of the Persian Gulf. Adapted each time to local wind patterns, single-direction towers in places with consistent prevailing winds, and 4- or 8-sided towers in places like Yazd, where wind direction varies. How it actually works: 2 modes. One structure. What makes the wind tower remarkable is that it is not one cooling mechanism. It is 2, built into a single structure, and they take over from each other automatically, depending on conditions. Mode 1 is wind-driven, and it relies on pressure differences. When wind strikes the openings at the top of the tower, it creates a pressure differential between the windward and leeward sides of the structure. Air is forced down through the tower on the high-pressure side and pulled out through openings on the low-pressure side, creating a continuous flow through the living space below. This mode is most powerful exactly when you need it most during the day, when wind speeds tend to be highest and the building is hottest. Mode 2 is buoyancy-driven, and it relies on the stack effect, the same principle covered in our turbine ventilator video. Warm air is less dense than cool air and rises. The Encyclopedia Iranica describes exactly this second mode directly. When there is little or no wind, air rises up the tower as the walls of the shaft are heated by the sun, creating the same kind of density-driven flow that keeps the system working around the clock rather than only on breezy days. The genius of the original Persian design is that no switching mechanism is needed. The two modes simply blend into each other depending on which EACT is dominant at a given moment: wind pressure during gusty afternoons, thermal buoyancy during still nights. What the modern research actually shows this is where we need to be careful, because the wind tower has attracted a lot of enthusiastic claims online, and the real research tells a more modest, but still meaningful story. It's important to separate three related technologies that often get blurred together: the standalone wind tower or solar chimney, which moves air using wind pressure and the stack EACT alone, and the solar chimney combined with an earth-air heat exchanger, or CAH, which adds a buried pipe that pre-cools incoming air underground before it reaches the chimney. The performance numbers for these two categories are very different, and most of the more dramatic results in the literature come from the combined system, not the chimney alone. For a standalone solar chimney, peer-reviewed modeling studies generally show modest, single-digit reductions, typically in the range of 1 to 2 C of indoor temperature change, alongside meaningful improvements in ventilation rate. One useful data point for an American audience comes from modeling work by Lee and Strand, cited in solar chimney research published via Science Direct, which simulated thermal chimneys on a standard residential building across 3 different U.S. climates and found the chimney reduced annual cooling energy demand by 24% in Spokane, 18,009% in Phoenix, and 13.1% in Minneapolis. This is one of the only studies that models the technology against U.S. climate data specifically, and it's a useful benchmark precisely because the reductions are modest rather than miraculous. The far more dramatic figures, and this is the important distinction, come from the combined CS systems. Research published via Science Direct on an integrated solar chimney and earth-air heat exchanger found that the system's buoyant driving force could sustain airflow rates up to 252 cubic meters per hour during the day, continuing to provide 50 to 70 cubic meters per hour even when solar radiation was low or absent, meaning ventilation continued around the clock. In a separate study of an CAH system in hot arid conditions, also published via Science Direct, the combined system decreased indoor air temperature by 9 C in summer, with a simple payback period of 5.4 years for the system cost. Those 252 M/H and 9 C figures describe a system with a buried pipe doing a large share of the work, not a chimney or tower on its own. A standalone retrofit chimney without the underground component should be expected to deliver results closer to the Lee and Strand range. A meaningful double-digit percentage reduction in cooling energy demand, not a double-digit degree temperature drop. The honest caveat here is the limitation that matters most for an American audience. A wind tower or solar chimney cannot cool air below the ambient outdoor temperature on its own. Research on solar chimney and earth-air systems published via Science Direct notes plainly that a solar chimney induces ambient air into the building, but is unable to reduce or increase that air's temperature by itself, which is why these systems are generally described as best suited to transitional seasons or mild climates, or as a ventilation supplement rather than a full air conditioning replacement during extreme heat. This means the wind tower's real value isn't as an air conditioner substitute on the hottest days of a Texas or Arizona summer. Its value is in the rest of the year's spring, fall, mild summer evenings, and overnight hours when outdoor air is cooler than indoor air, but a sealed, airtight modern home has no way to take advantage of that difference without running a fan. For those periods, and for the year-round indoor air quality benefit of constant fresh air exchange documented by the EPA, the wind tower's contribution is real and supported by the Lee and Strand U.S. climate modeling, even if it isn't a silver bullet for August and Phoenix. Why American homes don't have these: the wind tower isn't banned in the United States, but it occupies a position that makes it almost invisible to how American homes get built, for 3 specific reasons. First, American residential ventilation is built around ASHRAE Standard 62.2, the only standard in the U.S. focused specifically on indoor air quality in residential buildings, according to ASHRAE's own documentation. The standard requires whole-house mechanical ventilation systems with measurable, certifiable airflow rates. And it has been incorporated into the International Energy Conservation Code since 2012. A wind tower's airflow depends on wind speed, wind direction, and the temperature differential between the tower and the building, none of which can be guaranteed or certified the way a rated exhaust fan can. It isn't that the code forbids passive towers. It's that the entire compliance framework is built around a technology category the wind tower doesn't fit into. Second, the economics of new construction favor mechanical solutions. A bathroom exhaust fan or a whole house ventilation unit is a known product with a known cost, installed by a subcontractor in an afternoon. A wind tower has to be integrated into the structure's design from the start. Its height, orientation, and placement relative to prevailing winds all matter for performance. That is an architectural decision, not a fixture installation. And most production home building in the U.S. is not set up to make architectural decisions at that level. Third, there is simply no commercial category for it. A furnace has a brand, a model number, and an Energy Star rating. A wind tower does not, which means it has no place in a builder's catalog, no marketing budget behind it, and nothing for a building inspector to check against a list. What this looks like for an American home today, the full Persian wind tower, a tall masonry shaft integrated into new construction, is realistically a new build or major renovation project, and its performance depends heavily on local wind patterns, which means it needs to be designed for your specific site, not copied from a desert city on the other side of the world. But the underlying physics scale down. A smaller version of the same idea, sometimes called a solar chimney or thermal chimney, can be retrofitted onto an existing south-facing wall as an insulated glazed box that drives the stack EACT described above, without needing the wind-catching geometry of a full tower. Importantly, this kind of standalone retrofit will not deliver the 9C reduction or the 252 mH airflow figures discussed earlier. Those numbers come from systems with a buried earth air heat exchanger, which is a significantly larger project involving excavation and buried piping. What a standalone retrofit chimney can realistically deliver is closer to the Lee and Strand range, a double-digit percentage reduction in cooling energy demand, which compounds every season for the life of the structure with no moving parts to maintain. For most American homeowners, the practical takeaway isn't build a 33-meter brick tower. It's this. The principles that powered Yazd for 2,500 years, buoyancy-driven airflow, evaporative cooling at the vents, and pressure differentials, are the same principles a well-designed solar chimney uses today. The research shows these produce real, if modest, reductions in cooling load and meaningful improvements in fresh air exchange, particularly in the shoulder seasons when a sealed modern home is otherwise stuck recirculating the same stale air the EPA warns about. The tower at Dolatabad never needed a filter change. It's still standing after centuries, doing exactly what it was built to do. The question worth asking isn't whether the physics still work, they obviously do. It's why an idea that old, that well-documented, and that maintenance-free has no place in the catalog of a single American home builder.